We're back.
We're back. A little heavier, but we're back.
A little Thanksgiving meal, right?
Yeah.
Hey, if you haven't, in the chat, post up your favorite item from your holiday dinner.
Yeah.
Put it out there.
What was yours? What was yours?
Mine was warm apple pie with a little scoop of vanilla ice cream.
Yeah.
How about you?
I got to be honest. I went over a neighbor's house.
Yeah?
And I tried this broccoli casserole.
What?
Yeah.
What?
And it was actually pretty good. I don't know. It was actually
Was there
pretty
a
good.
lot of cheese in it?
It was a lot of something in it. You know how you just don't ask? You don't know. It's like you don't want to know how the sausage is made. Just eat the damn thing, right? So anyway, who's out there?
Oh, Gordon got the turducken coming out there again.
Yeah.
He's lying because I asked him if he had a turducken and he said no, he doesn't even like him.
Oh,
so
man.
he's just pretending to be a
That's
Louisiana boy.
still disturbing, by the way. That's still disturbing.
Turkey with gravy.
Yeah, squash casserole. There's Stormy up. A prime rib. There it goes. Tamales. Ivan's in the house.
I don't know if Blanton's is a...
What is Blanton? What is that?
It's bourbon, I think. That Tinsley guy,
Oh.
he's drinking his dinner.
Justin says mashed potatoes. Really? Like that's the main meal? Mashed potatoes? What do you want, man? It's
There's
like
another vote for
corn and
bourbon.
casserole and bourbon. Well, that's a combo. We have to kind of give that up.
Oh.
Who's out there? There's my girl, Dawn Marie. Dawn Marie, I don't know why, but you're reminding me of Harry Potter today. I don't know why, but you got the Harry Potter thing going on. I don't know what it is, but yeah.
I see John Kwan. John Kwan's in the house. Hey,
Andres
John.
Cornejo with the bald head sipping on that cup. There you go. Push that thing up, man. Got Carlos Barone looking off into the distance like he's pondering life.
We
like
got
what's going
Ben
on.
Smith from Indiana. He's drinking coffee too.
Yeah.
Who else we
Kevin
got?
Crutchfield has the what I call the nose up the nose shot going on there. Well done, Matt. It's always a good view.
So check out Greg Cleveland. This is pretty cool.
Where's he at?
He's down there he's on the first page.
Okay.
Greg Cleveland is in the house with a whole bunch of brand new Orkin pros.
Okay.
Doing some new hire
right, there
sales
you go.
training. He's up there with Gary Hubbard. They're kicking it around.
Just
They're
a
in
question.
Cedar,
Is
I don't even know where Cedar Falls.
Is Greg
Iowa.
any good? Is Greg any good?
Oh, Greg's awesome.
Oh,
Greg's
okay. I
awesome.
just want to make sure. You know.
So I'm sure those guys are getting some really good training. I love that they're doing it in a group. So
Yeah.
welcome all the new Orkin pros. There's our man
David
Jason
Tipton,
Sire.
wake up, man. Wake up, David. Wake up, David. I see you, man. Just wake up.
Lots of
Yeah, very
SoCal folks there.
Yeah, I wonder how SoCal did this time around, man.
They might be wanting to talk to you a little bit after this broadcast.
You think
I'll
so? I
just
don't think
leave
so.
it at
man.
that.
Ivan P., what's happening?
Who
There
else
you
we
go.
got?
Not much, man. A lot of people.
Wow, good screen content. There's
Yeah,
Albert
Brian
Eastlander.
Bergeron has that fake background, but it looks good, man.
There's
I
Mr.
love it, man.
Beauvais, the sales leader out there on the West Coast. Amen.
SoCal
Good
in the
morning.
house. And by the way, so what did Gordon say here? Ask Victor about football. All I know is LSU has lost their last 2 games. Boom, take that, Gordon. Oh, there goes
SoCal in
LSU.
the Yams.
Let's do this, man.
Yams?
Let's do this. Why?
Like candied yams?
Yeah, I don't know, man.
Where you put like maple syrup on them and stuff?
Yeah, I guess so, man.
There's 10 of them. There's 10 up there in Cedar Falls.
All right.
Outstanding.
Greg and the Gary Hubbard in the house training. Cool.
Gary Hubbard, he's flying high.
Is
You know,
he?
He's
Is
a
he?
big Michigan fan.
Is he?
And he kind of manages up there in the Midwest, and they had this big old back and forth going on with these cats from Ohio.
Uh-huh.
And he was very humble in his victory, but yeah, he could have taken full advantage of those guys from Ohio State, because them Ohio State fans. I'm from Ohio, but them Ohio State fans,
Buckeyes,
man,
right?
They're just too much.
Buckeyes?
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure. See, Gordon? Dude, Buckeyes, I got that one.
And then my SoCal folks, you guys put a licking on my boys from Notre Dame. So I'm going to cheer for SoCal or for USC to take the whole thing.
All right, I'm still on food here. Green bean casserole, man. All right, Ed, let's
Albert.
do this thing.
We should do this.
Let's do this thing, man.
So let's share some numbers company-wide on the termite side of the house. Most of these folks are focused on termite sales and some residential pest control. Some of them kind of play a multiple role where they sell some commercial.
Right.
But for this broadcast, we're going to focus on termite results for October.
Gotcha.
And I just wanted to share those because they're outstanding. And again, you just shake your head like, oh, here he goes again.
Yeah.
He's going to tell us about all these great numbers.
Yeah.
But the song remains the same. The old
good
Zeppelin
numbers,
tune,
man.
right? They just keep coming. So
End of year, wow.
For instance, traditional termite sales for the Orkin company, Orkin US, 12% increase over last year in October. Just absolutely outstanding. And we're off to a really, we're going to turn in a really good November already as we're sitting in the last day. Termite bait up 8% across the company. Our ancillary sales, 38% year-over-year increase in ancillary sales.
That's huge.
The exclusions, the insulation, the crawl space work,
Wow.
all that kind of stuff we're doing.
38% year over year.
38%. Here's the bigger win, I think. All 5 divisions, we're split up into 5
Right.
divisions around the country. Every division had at least a 30% increase in ancillary sales. This is
30, 30, 30,
30, all the way around.
Wow, nice.
And when that happens, it's this
Commission.
There's
There's
lots of commission.
There's like a bonus Yahtzee commission, isn't there?
But when you get all 5 members of the team hitting,
Yeah.
my job's pretty easy.
Okay, all 5 cylinders kick it in.
It's just
Well done,
kicking
man.
in. So yeah, just outstanding. And then
Yeah.
when you roll it all up into total termite, you pull it all into one bucket. A 21% year-over-year increase.
That's
and again,
amazing. That's
I just
amazing.
keep sharing with you that this is building on 2 spectacular,
Right.
almost three and a half years of spectacular termite growth. So these aren't numbers where we laid an egg last
Right.
year, so we're crushing it. We're crushing numbers that we crushed last year in the previous
That's
2 years.
amazing.
It's
I wonder what the year over 2 years would be, or year over 3 years would be.
It's almost 67. It's 67, 68% because I've got that in my slide for the plan presentation.
Well
that
done,
I got to
man.
do
You
tomorrow.
had that number right
Well,
there.
I'm working on my
That's
speech.
amazing, man.
I'm working
That's-
on my speech. So,
That's
yeah,
amazing numbers, though, man.
yeah.
Great numbers.
And again, like we talk about all the time, the stuff's converting.
Yeah.
It'd be great if it's great if we sell a whole bunch of business, but it's
Yeah.
more important when we sell a bunch of profitable business.
Yeah.
And again, as a company, all 5 divisions made
Nice.
their profit plan last month.
Congratulations.
And certainly that means the company did. So life is good. Life
Yeah.
is good.
I
and
love
we
it, man.
anticipate, just a strong close to 2022.
Last day.
Positioning us for next
You
year.
know what would be better?
What would be
If
better?
the West Coast would actually pony up and start hitting some real numbers.
Oh my! Look,
Yeah.
he's calling out
Let's
the
go.
West Coast.
West
again.
Coast.
Look at
I
Rod.
noticed they're like, the weakest on the list all the time. West Coast, the weakest on the list.
That's changing today.
Yeah, let's see.
That's changing
Yeah,
today. We
let's
had
see.
23 people,
Okay.
23 folks, 23
yeah.
Orkin pros
Yeah.
run that perfect paid on
Okay.
$100,000 perfect mile.
Yeah, let's see.
23 of them.
Yeah.
Here comes your West Coast.
East Coast. East
Show-
Coast.
take
Watch-
'em to the
watch
tape,
East
Stormy.
Let's go to this thing. Nice.
You see that? You see that? You
I
see
got a
that?
couple up there. Got a couple up there.
Rodney Jones.
Rodney was like a rare bird.
$237,000 in
Well
paid
done,
on business.
Rodney. Way to hold it up for the rest of the team, man. Not bad.
Times 14%.
That's a lot of money, man.
How do you
That's
do
a lot
that
of
math?
cash, yeah.
So just a quick note,
Yep.
and then we'll talk about SoCal because
Yep.
they just rubbed your nose in it. But to the folks in Cedar Falls, there are 3 folks on that list that it's their first year here. So don't
nice.
think for a second that you can't come out of that class you're in right now and throw up $100K next month. It happens very frequently.
Well done.
And with that leadership
Nice.
they got going.
I want to recognize Georgia, Lindsay and Craig. Way to go. And then, can I just say something? Here's where I'm disappointed with the list. Here's the list. Roy Elegato again, man. Dude, he's almost at the bottom. Like, that guy should be setting the pace. That guy should be lead horse for California.
Well,
I'm just saying, the man's just always dragging back there. I'm trying to keep it clean, man. That's all I'm saying.
So for those of you that don't know,
Cunningham's.
I was out on the West Coast, maybe a month and a half ago, maybe 2 months now.
I got
and-
issues with the West Coast.
And we went into Roy's branch, and he made me FaceTime Victor and said, "We're
Yeah.
coming for you."
Yeah.
And danged if they didn't.
Great
The
numbers.
only region in the company with three
Yep.
perfect milers.
Nice.
Just
That
outstanding.
is sweet. That's it. All right. West Coast. There, he's holding up the rings. Get the rings out, right? There you go. Well done, man. Well done. And by the way, the Corpez brother, what's up with the other one?
I don't know what happened to him.
The other one's getting lazy.
He must have been
Keep
on
the other
vacation.
Corpez brother going, man.
He must have been on vacation.
Yeah.
He must have been on vacation.
Great numbers, though, man. Seriously, great numbers all the way around, man. That's congratulations.
And again, the story still stays the same.
Yeah.
Again, 15 different regions out of the 23 reps, right? With
Right.
3 being represented in SoCal. We had a couple of regions that had a couple, but 15 different regions. So again, it's
amazing.
It's never, ever, ever.
Yeah.
It's
The
always
territory.
about the man or the woman
Yep.
or the Orkin Pro. It's never the land. It's never where you're at in the territory. From New York to Texas to Louisiana to West
You got a little bit
Coast,
of
East
everything, man.
Coast, up in the Iowa, Wisconsin region. I mean, just up in your group there in Cedar Falls, you got a couple of folks coming out of there.
Love it, man.
So
Love
just
it.
outstanding.
How many? 23 again, right?
23 total.
Okay.
23 total.
And then, so what does Rodney Jones get for a gift? What's his gift card?
Rodney gets a $500 gift card for laying at the top of the total. And
Everybody
the
gets 100?
The other 22 get a $100 gift card that I will get in your email either possibly tonight or certainly by the end of the day tomorrow for the performance for the Perfect
Cool.
Mouse.
I think you should seriously consider.
He's giving my
I'm
money
just
away.
saying, if you hit 150, you should get like a $200 gift card. That's what I think. That's fair. That's just me. I'm looking for you guys, man. I'm just saying. Come on, man.
Maybe next
Crowbar
time.
that wallet open just a little bit for these folks, man.
So here we
Making
get-
money,
here we have
making
again
dough. Come on.
the guy that
Come
we're
on,
put-
share the love.
The guy-
You talking about? Yeah, we got a good spread. Well, start spreading it, Ed. Start spreading.
The guy that we're paying to be here giving away my money. Well, let's do that for December. Or I'm sorry, for November. You sell 150, you get paid on 150, we'll lay 200 on you, and if you lead the pack, we'll lay the 500 on you.
Bam.
You got me
Welcome.
again. You got me
You're
again.
Welcome, man. There
You
go.
got me
Yeah.
again.
That's a good deal. I think that's a good deal, man. So that's a great list. Congratulations, man. Good
Yeah,
list.
outstanding. And again, for our folks in Cedar Falls, do the math on 14% of that, because those folks that cross that barrier, they're all making 14%.
Yeah.
You know, those are, at a minimum, that's a $15,000 monthly paycheck.
That's nice.
And you can walk out of that door today and do that in December.
Yep.
You can do it in December. Roy's shaking his head, yes, you can. Yes, you
Has anybody ever hit 300 a month?
We had, it's happened a couple times, but mostly it's been a big sale.
Okay.
It's been like a big fumigation or something like that. You know, I don't think anybody's ever hit it. There've been a couple good runs at it.
Okay.
Been a couple good runs at it.
I think we should just
No,
kinda start-
we're not going to give any more money for 300,000 because it did happen. It did happen commercially.
By the way, all right, go ahead.
I'm gonna block the objection before it comes
Well
up. How
done,
about
man.
that?
Well
How
done.
about that?
Let's go.
Let's do something different this time. We've focused the last probably 8 residential broadcasts on focusing on content in the Sales Velocity Academy.
Right.
I wanted to switch it up a little bit today, and I wanted to talk about, I guess, Victor's book, Mastering the Upsell, and I'm going to have him kind of tee that up a little bit. But this time of year, in most parts of the country, you know, we're not getting any real leads. People aren't calling in as frequently. Now, there are some pockets where, you know, depending on the seasonality of their business,
Right.
they may be in some sort of a termite swarm. I think sometimes that happens out on the West Coast this time of year. I'm not completely familiar. And sometimes in South Florida, we get a little pop in like December with some termites showing their face.
Right.
But for the most part, what's happening right now with our folks, with the
Right.
folks on this call, is they are out self-generating appointments.
Right.
Or they're getting some help from technicians with tech leads, or they're getting some help from some admins setting appointments. But for the most part, what they're chasing is we're chasing the upsell. We're chasing our current customer base.
Gotcha.
We're showing up at pest control customers, either folks that just started their service with us, or folks that may have been pest control customers for 10, 12 years.
Got it.
On the premise that we want to come out and give them, you know, Victor, as part of your program, you're entitled to a complete home inspection,
Right.
right? So that's the premise. And then the other thing that these folks do this time of year is we run a lot of termite re-inspections. And a termite re-inspection is where we've sold them a termite-related service in the past, and we go back annually to check it.
Gotcha.
So that's what these folks are doing. Mr. Victor, it's Ed over at Orkin. I want to come by and give you the complimentary home inspection that's part of your program.
Right.
So that's what we're doing. And these folks are good at upselling. Right? I've shared this with you before, that the book almost could have been written for us, right? So talk a little bit about why you wrote the book and the thought process, and then we'll jump into kind of three things that I think I want to try to focus us on today.
Okay, fair enough. So earlier on, Ed and I were talking about that this is the month where we got to get a little more creative with how we generate business. And so let's tie this into upselling. When I wrote the book, Mastering the Upsell, and by the way, if you have access to, obviously you do, to the Sales Velocity Academy, you can download the book. In there, I highlight a study that I think was really important, that really kind of generated the full interest of the book and me wanting to write the book, and that is that if you focus on selling to your existing customer base, you could increase your revenue by up to 30% simply by upselling or cross-selling them, which really ties into what we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
If they bought a certain product or service, how can we actually sell them more? Yep. And so you talk about upselling, and what are some of the things we should be looking for on the upsell?
So I think there's kind of three things that I want to try to level set, right?
Okay.
Kind of the timing of the upsell.
Okay.
Is it the right time to do it?
Good point.
I think certainly the phrasing that we're going to use, and in the book, we'll jump into the phrasing next. In the book, there's a chapter dedicated to phrases you can use, and we'll touch on a couple of them in a minute. And I think the last thing we need to talk about is, in this environment, how do we build urgency? Because we know that these folks haven't called us, right?
Right.
So we have to kind of, in Jason Sire terms, he's on the call, we need to nudge him. We need to nudge him. We don't want to pressure him to purchasing.
Right.
We just want to nudge him to prevent procrastination, right? So let's talk about some phrases we can use when we're out there that can kind of tee up or spike the conversation.
Why don't we talk about the timing first?
Okay, cool.
Give your side of the story. How do you time like an upsell? When do you begin to mention upsells? What do you do, Ed?
Yeah, so I think the first thing you need to do, and we'll talk on the urgency piece, but I think you got to make a determination: is the time right? And if you come down out of the attic or you come up out of the crawl space and you got a $15,000, $20,000 potential bundle you're going to serve up to the customer, you kind of got to do a kind of a gut check litmus test. Is it right? And we talked about it. We had a joke about if you come up out of there, and sometimes when we're setting these creative appointments, maybe we didn't get it completely qualified. Maybe only one party's there, right? Maybe it's the husband there alone. Maybe it's the wife there alone. So we want to really avoid a one-legger. The other thing we got to be mindful of is that when we showed up to the house, we showed up on the premise that we're going to give them a complete home inspection. They don't expect us or anticipate us to come down out of the attic or to come up out of the crawl and serve up a $15,000, $20,000 bundle that is clearly an unexpected expense at that time, right? I mean, they never thought you'd come down out of there, even though it's all legitimate and it all makes sense. So I think you got to be cautious about when you do it. I think if everything's right and it feels good, you strike right now, right? I mean, you just figure a way to transition from that inspection to that sale opportunity. But then I think the other thing you got to be mindful of, if you got a one-legger, you got to figure a way to maybe drive everybody back in. And one of the best guys at doing that, one of the best examples I always like to share, is Ricky Schmidt up in Virginia. When he gets into kind of a one-legged situation, he sends pictures. He'll send a whole bunch of his pictures to the customer and say, look, I didn't expect to find this when I came out, right? It's going to take me a while to pull this all together. Knowing full well he could do it right then.
Right.
But I'm not prepared to pull it together for you now. I got my next appointment a half an hour away, so I got to get on with that. But what I'd like to do is set up a time to come back and meet with you folks, right? Right. And in the meantime, what I'm going to do is I'll share these pictures so you guys can kind of go over them. And then you use the pictures, and maybe you use a screen recording to, circle and show the problem spot so that when that spouse, husband's missing, wife's missing, partner's missing, whatever, they see those pictures and they say, oh my God.
Yeah, it tells the story.
We got to talk about this, And I think that helps you reset the deck to find the opportune time. It gives you an easy out. Yeah. So you don't get stuck doing a one-legger. I really wasn't prepared. I didn't set aside the time to address this properly. Right. Is it okay if I would come back and share these solutions with you? Yeah. And I think if you do it that way, you increase your odds, because the one thing we know on these creative proposals that we're out there doing this time of year, it's going to sound terrible, but most of them never buy. Most of them don't buy. Most if we're doing this job right and we're putting out 3-4 proposals a day, on a creative appointment that you self-generate, closure. If you're closing 25-30% of those, you're a rock star. Okay. Most of them go to that no decision path. They didn't see enough value in it.
So let's go to how do you create that sense of urgency?
Yeah, let's do the phrases first. Though.
You want to do phrases first?
Yeah, let's go through some of the phrases, then we'll dial into the urgency. Because
wonderful.
Because I think the phrasing is almost as important as creating the urgency.
Yeah, and let's keep in mind, because I wanted to tag on to the visuals, because sending the pictures is really powerful. So let's do this. Let's go into the phrases first. So when I wrote the book Mastering the Upsell, one chapter chapter is dedicated to like really how do you bring it up genuinely, naturally, and authentically without sounding like a sales pitch. So let me go to the slides. I got a couple of phrases, and again, I just plucked a few out of the book, but some of these you're very familiar with. I mean, these are really simple. By the way, now that you mention that, earlier on I told you about, by the way, one of my favorites is that one right there. Because if you mention something early, then later on in the process, when you come back and mention it again, it's more impactful. Also, if I were you, or if it were mine to do, you know, if you're going to do this, you might as well do this. You mentioned earlier, this requires great listening skills. And the last one, you know, here are a few options to consider. And I love these phrases. What are some of the ones that you took away from the book, Ed?
So a couple I took away from the book, and then I'll share one personally. I love the one where I've got something to share with you that you need to seriously consider.
Yeah.
You know, something, you know, I found something that you need to seriously consider.
Right.
And I think when you put the emphasis on the seriously, you know, as you know, I get too wrapped
Yeah.
around the little idiosyncrasies.
It matters. It matters.
And I think it does matter. So I love that one. You know, let me show you something that's really cool. It was one I love in the book, because that's kind of the way I converse. You got to check this out. I got to show you something that's really cool. You know, those mice getting in under your door, you know, under your garage door? We got this cool thing that can stop them from getting in.
Absolutely.
You know, we got this excluder garage door suite.
I love that,
we
right?
can, yeah, I mean, just,
Because again, as soon as you say it's a cool thing,
yeah.
they lean
wanna
in.
li- yeah,
What do you got? What you got? What you got? What you got?
Yeah.
Right?
So, I mean, I think those are the ones out of the book that make a lot of sense. The one that has always been my go-to, and I get really serious with them, you know, because think about it. You're coming in there.
Right.
On the premise that you're giving them a home inspection, right? You may have even set the table that you're going to share some findings. But I like using the line, I would be remiss, Victor, if I didn't share this with you.
Right.
I'd be remiss if I didn't point out that this was going on, that this is going on. And I think that's where you talk about, you know, telling them you want to share it with them, but I think more important, like we talked in the first broadcast, it's about the obligation that you have to share it with them.
That's correct.
Right? As the guy or the gal that's trying to help them fix problems in their house, if you don't mention it, shame on you.
Right.
But I like that. You know, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention this to you.
Because we talked about earlier, you have a fiduciary duty to tell them.
Yeah.
And then the other thing we talked about, and I want to emphasize this because this is important. Remember, don't buy with somebody else's wallet or look into their pocket, or rather buy with their wallet, not yours. By that I mean is too often we think to ourselves, well, maybe they can't afford it. Maybe that now they're not going to want that because it's not a good time. And as soon as you get into that mind frame, you're going to start selling yourself short, but more importantly, you're going to start selling them short. And that's what you're saying is very important. How do you make sure you sell them what they need?
100%.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, you got to serve it up. And again, it's that Jason line. I'll say it again because I think it's that important. We don't want to pressure them into purchasing something. We want to nudge them so that they don't procrastinate. And I'll use myself as an example, because then we'll step into creating urgency. You know, we started selling insulation back in, I mean, I was peddling termite work, you know, as a lot of you know. I mean, I did that for a living for like 15 years. And we started selling insulation. We were one of the first states in the country to sell insulation in Ohio when I was peddling up my stuff up there. And I didn't buy it for 7 years, and I knew, Victor, that my house needed it. I mean, I was educated enough that, you know, it took me a while to come around to insulation. I was using my mind thinking like, I can't sell this stuff to people. I could go to Home Depot, rent a machine, and get a blower.
Yep.
So I was using my mindset.
Right. There you
and
go.
then what
That's
I did,
perfect example.
I didn't go to Home Depot. I didn't buy the bags of insulation. I never did anything.
Right.
Because I wasn't nudged into acting.
Right.
And I think that's the other piece that happens.
That's really good
with
example.
these creative proposals. Is we got to do enough nudging, and I think the missing piece, you know, your piece on Mount Nut is what I love, you know. So when you think about Mount Nut, the acronyms are
money.
Most of these folks that we're meeting with have the money.
Right.
They've given you the time.
Correct. There's a need.
There's a need.
We just need to create
The urgency, right? So you think about that's the piece that's missing in our creative proposals. It's not like, you know, they called in because there's termites flying out of their baseboards. They crawled, you know, they're standing on a chair because there's a mouse running around the house or a rat running through. These folks didn't call us. There's no urgency. You get a termite swarm, you get a rat running around the house, the urgency's there. They're buying from somebody.
Correct.
They're buying from somebody. But when you create these opportunities, you got to build some urgency.
Yeah.
And if you don't, they're going to go to that no decision path,
and it's
to where they're just done. Because I think if you leave any of our appointments, particularly a creative appointment, if you go in there and you come back and tell the boss, hey, Bubba, I gave a $15,000 bundle proposal. I feel really good about it. If you don't have some sort of commitment,
It's not going to happen.
When you leave the house, you're toast for the most part. There'll be some too-call closes where they'll call back. You'll follow up and you'll do your follow-up thing, but you got to create some urgency in the moment you're there.
I agree.
Talk about that a little bit.
So we talked about urgency, right? So, by the way, Ed's referring to this acronym I use called MOUNT-NUT. There's 5 reasons people don't buy. MOUNT-NUT. No money, no time, need, urgency. Last part is trust. And many people get stuck on the urgency piece. That's where I think we lose a lot of deals, where people don't think it's urgent. In today's market, we have to make it urgent. Ed and I were talking about what are some points of urgency, kind of those leverage fulcrum points that we can use to create a sense of urgency. Ed, we walked through 3 of them. You take the first one.
Yeah, I think that, and I'll tee it up by saying this, I think that when we try to create urgency, you don't want to wait till the end.
Right.
Particularly on creative appointments, you don't want to wait till the end. You don't want to be hokey with it, right? You don't want to be, like the guy that's sealing driveways that walks next door, knocks on your door and says, hey, I got 5 gallons worth of juice that I didn't use next door. I can give you a heck of a deal. That to me, in my mind, is creating urgency in such a hokey way.
Right.
That, the customers are like, you're full of baloney, get off my porch, that kind of thing. But I think if we start to build urgency early, I think we got to use some of the things that are happening in the world around us, right?
That's correct.
Let's think about the insulation services, right? Be it crawl space, be it dry zone. Think about what's going on in the world today. Use what's going on in the news to create the urgency.
Right.
Right? And I think the first one is prices are going up.
Correct.
Prices are going up. Talk a little bit about that. Well, it's out there in the world, right?
The thing is, right now is the time to talk to your customers about prices going up. And I think you could do it in such a way that they'll believe you.
Yeah.
Because if I say, look, by the end of the year, after that, prices are going to go up, you can literally say, I'm not joking, prices are going to go up. That's a big one. We talked about supply chain, right? Delivery, schedule, all these things we can use to create that sense of urgency to make a decision now. And I want to go back to what you said earlier, because I don't want to discount what you said. And I think, I know you just say it, because it's easy for you to do it in a presentation. When you just drop things like, you need to seriously consider that. Yeah. Study after study has shown that just that one word, whether it's that one or something similar, creates that sense of urgency. Because again, these are words that are not used. They're not often used. They're
Absolutely.
not common. And when you drop one of those words like that, that's a nudge. Here's something you seriously need to consider. Here's why. Supply, schedules is getting tough. They're getting pushed out further. Prices are going to go up. That's a guarantee. Customers will believe that. Those 3 things, I think pricing, schedule, scarcity of products or supply.
Amen.
Are what we use for urgency these days.
Yeah, if you think what's going on internally with our operators, right? I mean, I see Michael Wilburn on the screen. He and Leland and I were sitting down there talking about the absolute crazy increase in shipping costs
everywhere
on our tap insulation. I mean, like, they're trying to figure out where can we drop it, where can we put it in one spot where we can go chase it down. So that's a real thing that you can talk about that's true.
It's very true.
Very true. And if you haven't had your rate cards increased yet, it's coming, folks. I mean, it's absolutely coming because we've got to offset these increased costs.
Yeah.
They're talking about the cost of shipping alone.
Right.
Doubling on our insulation products if we can get them.
So let me add this. So we got one more phrase I want to cover here, and I want to tie this to what you're saying. So this last slide, I want to show you. In the book, I talk about use an upsell phrase plus the why buy. So for example, well, here are a few options to consider, and then Ed, here's why. Yeah. Prices are going to go up.
Yeah.
Schedule, scarcity. That's where you can hit them with that combination.
Amen. And I think when you do that, you can create urgency. Early on, again, starting it early, rather than wait until the end, by talking about, this stuff is skyrocketing. What's going on? Think about what's going on in their own world with their own utility bills, right?
Yeah.
Skyrocketing, right? Think about the cost of gas. Think about the cost of shipping. All the stuff that's real in their world. When you spin that, the good thing about me being here today is we've got a window up until, whatever date you want to put together up until December. If we can get this work done in December, you'll be able to avoid the price increases that we fully anticipate are even going to come into play.
Yeah. By the way, even that phrase is powerful. We have a window here.
Yeah. You
just say that to somebody, immediately it triggers, I got a time limit on this thing. I got to take advantage of it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think particularly on these creative proposals, I like tagging an expiration date of the pricing. Somebody says, how long is it good for? If you say that's good forever, it doesn't matter. I love tying it to. When you lay a price on them creatively, this rate. If you got to pack up your stuff and go home, you got to tell them, this rate is only good until whatever date. The 15th of December or whatever, to try to create that urgency that, in all likelihood, is a true story, right? I don't want to mislead people.
But I think it's a true story.
It
I don't-
is, and they're living it.
Yeah,
And
and the
they're
thing is,
living
I don't even think you have to. You just have to. By the way, there is a time limit right here.
Yep.
On it, just to let you know.
Yeah.
And as soon as you say that, just like that, just to let you know, they'll believe what you said before that when they see the time limit there. You're not joking.
Amen.
And so,
And the other one I talk about, it kind of blends into the scarcity, is, you know, this time of year, the calendar's filling up.
Yep.
You know, we're booking these jobs left and right. You know, we don't want you to have to wait till spring
Right.
to get the, you know, these insulation services done, because at that point in time, you'll kind of lose the value of getting it in now. You know, we've got a couple of windows open in here, you know, in the next week or two. But believe me, you know, if we wait until Friday, if we wait until Monday, those windows will close and you'll be pushed out on the calendar. So again,
yeah.
kind
And by the way, you also really leverage the obvious, right? January and February, cold months.
Yep.
We want to get this done before,
Amen.
so we can get it done before the end of the year and before prices go up. One, two. You know,
Absolutely.
that's how you create that sense of urgency.
I think the other one that I want to make sure that we share is you know, it drives me crazy when our sellers go out, be it commercial sellers or residential sellers, and they don't know when the next window is to get a job done. You know, just remember, and, yeah, I don't like to talk old school, but when I walked out the door in the morning, I asked the boss man, I said, dude, what window do we have open? When can we do something? You know, so then you structure your thing. You know, we've got one opening, Victor, for Friday, you know, that we can do. And I always love playing, not that a job got canceled, but you know,
Right.
so your boss tells you, hey, I got nothing for Friday.
Right.
Well, let's push it out. I got nothing for next Wednesday. So you leave that day talking to the customers and saying, hey, you know, it's crazy. I was talking to my boss this morning, and we've got a window available on Wednesday. And in fact, the boss said, if we can schedule this job in for Wednesday, I can knock 10% off that for you.
Right.
Because he doesn't want the technicians to have nothing to do, so these fellas can earn a commission.
Right.
He wants them to be able to support their family.
Right.
And we got nothing for these guys to do. We don't want to have to send them home.
And by the way, Ed, that's so subtle. I like when, because that's been done to me.
Yeah.
Somebody explains, here's why you're getting the discount.
Yeah.
Because that's going to da-da-da. We just bought a bathroom, you know, setting, and the guy literally said to us, I said, look, I'm going to give you a discount, here's why. I came out here, I just spent an hour and a half out here, I got to do this and that. If I don't leave out here without a deal, then this is da-da-da. And because he gave me a reason that I said that's acceptable,
Yeah.
I actually bought it. You
Yeah.
know, schedule it.
I think what that comes down to,
Yeah.
these reasons have to be logical and professional.
Correct.
Again, the guy with the bucket of driveway sealer, that's not logic. You're getting scammed, right? Something's going on there. You're getting scammed. And the other one I like to use too is not so much that let's say that a job goes bad, right? Let's face it. You know, we lose 20% of our termite work gets backlog canceled. You know, customer, buyer's remorse, whatever. The weather's bad, whatever happens. They get COVID. They can't do the work that way. So you'll get these windows that open up in our schedules that are sometimes not there. I mean, because right now a lot of the branches in the areas are scheduling out week, 2, 3 weeks out, right?
Right.
So if you get one of those cancellations, you don't tell the customer you have a cancellation because I just don't like that vocabulary.
Yeah.
So I tell them we had a postponement. You know, the folks that we had scheduled for next Wednesday came down with COVID, so we're not going to be able to go in and service their home.
Right.
So we've got this unique window that if we act now, I can get you booked.
See,
in.
just that reasoning.
Yeah.
You tell them the story behind why they got the window. They go, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, and I think you'll buy this, is that these little things build credibility because you're being honest.
Yeah.
And I don't think we need to oversell people. I think people understand prices are going up, supply chain's an issue, scarcity. I think we should add that into the pot when we're trying to nudge our customer forward.
Yeah. And then another thing that we do very well and very successfully, particularly with our creative customers, pest control customer for years, termite customer, is using at the end, if you get forced out, using at the end, kind of that last grasp, that Hail Mary, to where you go to the third party close. Obviously, Victor, we've been sitting here, it makes sense. You kind of told me it makes sense. You're just not ready to move right now, and I understand that. Let me do this and get on their side. Let me do this. I've given you the best deal I can give you. Let me get on the phone with my boss and let me see if, you've been a customer for 5 years. Let me see if I can get him to help you with it. I've given you the best deal I can. And you gotta be genuine in your third party close. And I love doing them on speakerphone.
Right.
So they hear it. And you gotta make sure your branch manager or your RSM knows what's going on and just dial. And then that customer says, Ed's going to bat for us, honey. He's going to bat for us. And then they hear the whole conversation. They hear the whole conversation. They hear me, hey, Victor, I'm sitting over here with Gary Hubbard and his wife, and they've been customers for 5 years. They need a little bit of help. They need a little bit of help. And I think if we can get them 10% off on this job, here's the details, blah, 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 and make sure the manager knows how to play the game with you. You know, there's ones that are really good at it. I think if we can get that done, we can fill that spot for Wednesday with their job.
There you go.
What do you think, boss man?
Yep.
So the customer now sees you as that. And again, that can turn very hokey if it's done wrong.
Correct. You got to be careful with that.
You got to be very careful. And I love the fact that you do it live on speakerphone.
Right.
On speakerphone.
Yeah.
And you come up with some code word when you talk to your boss. You know, hey Hub, or hey Gary. You know, you come up with the word that he knows you're into you're into a third party. Again, you know, it sounds really deceitful, but it's not, right? Just so your manager knows that, you know, if you usually call him Antonio, you go, hey, Mr. Antonio, hey, it's Ed over at Orkin. He knows we're in a third party. Right. He knows we're in a third party. So
whatever the trigger is.
Signals.
Whatever the trigger is.
Yeah. Amen.
Yeah.
Amen.
I think a lot of these deals, I think just being straight authentic, I'll try to get you a deal.
Yep.
I'm trying to help you out. I'm trying to close it out. I think that's the best way to sell.
Yeah.
You know, and if I got to do a Hail Mary, whether it's that strategy or me, let me think about it. I'm going to figure out what's holding you back.
Yep.
If it's price, I said, well, let me see what I can work out.
Yeah.
And then just make that call, but be very upfront with it.
I know sports analogies aren't good for you, but let me go to bat for you. Let me go to bat for you.
There's your sports analogy for the day.
I think we're pushing a little bit of time, but let's just talk about. Let me just make sure we click through all of them. Again, that never pressure the purchase. Always nudge the.
Shane Messer is the #1 sales manager at Third Party Close, according to Jason.
There you go, and those two would know.
Ben loves it also.
Yeah, amen. Being mindful that these aren't leads. You got to create the urgency. You got to figure out a way to do it strategically, and planting the seeds. I don't know anything else that we might have missed.
I think we covered it all, man. Chris Anderson said, and with 90 days SAC, you won't even need to pay until February. Talking about how do you close that?
How to use the REC.
Yep. Love that. I don't think we have anything else. Great numbers.
Yeah, outstanding numbers, and that's it, man. That is.
We knocked it out, man.
Yeah, good. I think we're good timing on it.
By the way, we should ask you guys to actually leave one takeaway. I think it's always interesting for us to kind of say, you know, what one takeaway do you have from these sessions like that? We get an idea what you like, what you don't like, what's working, what's not working, and we love your feedback. So one thing, man.
Yeah, in your
put
group,
it in the
in
chat.
your group me chat or in this chat, you know, just pull one takeaway that you think is going to make some sense.
Peter Barrera showing
we're dishing out some good stuff, and quite frankly, looking for the takeaways is reinforcement that we're hitting the mark and we're not boring you to tears, right? We're trying to keep these things.
You can tell us if we're boring you to tears, man. We'll accept that. We'll start doing some song and dances. I don't know. I'll come in here with a top hat.
I got one from Gordon.
What did
right?
Gordon go again?
He called me after the first broadcast. He didn't even watch but half of it.
I'm getting tired of Gordon.
But he calls me.
I'm getting tired of Gordon. I mean, Roy and Gordon are just on that list right now.
Let me read it to you.
Yeah.
So he just
What did he
basically said, this is interesting. Some of you may be thinking this.
He's actually like going through a fall.
He better go away.
You're actually going to share some stuff.
Hey, he said he's in DFW. He's in Dallas Fort Worth.
Okay.
You know, probably the #1 branch in REC closure, 70%, 80% market.
Okay.
So he's in a good place.
So why is he there? By the way, before you get into the message, why is he there?
Well, that's part of his turf. He's trying to learn something. He's trying to learn how to sell termites.
Basically, he's trying to take credit for some other people's work.
Yeah, he said.
Go ahead.
Hey, Sam and a few others say they'd like to hear from others in the company about what they're doing that makes them successful.
I love
kind of
that.
like an Orkin Spotlight.
Yeah.
So I think what they're saying is they're tired of hearing from us.
Yeah.
They want to hear about the pros.
We should do an Orkin Spotlight. I love that idea, man.
So the good news, and I told Gordon this.
I love that idea.
We're doing podcasts with the stars. And B. Worth, I don't know if you're out there, but I told you when he was out there, he's first up. And we're doing Chris Pierce. He doesn't know it yet, but we're going to do podcasts in January, and we're going to do a couple of them each month.
Who's interviewing him?
I'm gonna start, and I'll probably screw it up, so I may ask you to help.
Yeah, man. Let me drill him. I'll see what I can get out of him. Just to squeeze him for everything.
So that's coming. So
I think that's a great idea, by the way.
Yeah.
You know what would be cool? Just throwing it out there for Gordon and the team to consider. What if somebody were to submit like a 1 or 2 minute video of something they do?
Amen.
And just like boom, we'll use that as a spotlight video.
That's kind
How's that?
That makes some sense.
How's that? So
let's make Gordon do that.
Yeah, just like a 1 minute, on the phone video.
Yeah.
Like, okay, here's what I do that's working for me. Yeah. It could be just like that. That's working for me.
As you know, we've got all our region sales managers coming in next week from the country, and Victor's going to talk to them a little bit. But one of the things we asked them to do is to share their best practices from their turf, kind of what's working across the other regions, so that I could hear what's working for you, and you could hear what's working for me. And,
I'm thinking an Orkin minute, like you do it in a minute, like boom, here's what I do, and just Yeah,
Perfect.
we should do that, man. So
We will work through that. In the meantime,
in the meantime,
that stock purchase enrollment window opens tomorrow, December 1st through December 13th. If you can get in and play in that a little bit, check your finances. The first thing you got to make sure that you're doing before you jump into that is make sure you're taking full advantage of the 401k match. And that requires you to be sitting 6% ahead, or setting 6% of your pay ahead. If you're there, then you might want to consider jumping into this plan. But if you're not to the 6%, you probably don't want to consider this, because that 6% gets matched on 50 cents on the dollar. So you're passing up that money. You can save 10% on the stock purchase, but if you're in a position where you're doing a pretty good job and you're north of that 6%, consider that. Take a look at that. I think there's some value for plenty of folks out there. Cool. The other thing is, a bunch of these folks, I mean, there are stars on this call as I look through the list. I mean, there's folks that are really close to Chairman's Club. Right. There are folks that are really close to President's Club. Don't miss Chairman's Club or don't miss President's Club by $1,000 job. Go create some urgency, or heck, sell your dad or your brother or your mother something, right? Don't miss it that way. And then the other thing about this time of year that I love is, this is your opportunity. The way we pay them commissions twice a month. This is what I call Santa commissions.
Commissions.
This is the stuff you're doing now is earning Santa commissions. So you can if you sell a couple more deals, maybe you can buy your spouse or your bride or your best friend a bigger present.
Okay.
You can maybe cover the bills that your wife is running up, buying for the grandkids. Not that would be happening in my house. Okay. When I grew up, we got like jeans and stuff for Christmas. My wife.
By the way, the soft packages. Remember the soft packages? Nobody wanted the soft packages. You're like,
I got a whole dining room full of presents that come from Amazon that my wife ordered for the kids, and Victor, there's not a one of them in there for me. So think about that. This is time to focus on your commission. So get after that.
Yep.
Anything in the chat?
Nope. Cool ideas. Create a sense of urgency. Love that from Brian. Yeah, man, all good. I like the idea. I think the Orkin Spotlight and the podcasting is a great idea.
Amen.
Because I'm telling you, there's a brain trust out there somewhere. I don't know about the West Coast, but in the sense, there's a brain trust out there we can work with.
Roy, what's going on?
Roy didn't even react to that one.
He's just had it. Ed Beauvais is going to kill me when he sees me next week. and Tinsley and all them folks are going to come in here and just, I'm tired of Victor. Yeah. Just remember, you got to see some of them cats next week.
Yeah. Don Marie said that we'll see you next week.
To the RSM, you'll see him next week.
Is Roy coming next week?
No, Roy.
Okay,
Roy
good.
will be out
Okay,
there,
no bulletproof vest necessary. Bam, got it.
Man.
Love it.
All right, let's get out of
here. All
right. We had a lot of fun.
Well done, guys.
Thanks for the efforts, and man, just keep on doing what you're doing. Y'all are killing it.
Congratulations, man. Congratulations.